What to do, psychology students? I was going to make a review video for topic 2 assessment on the brain and nervous system and endocrine system. This is the review guide, so check it out if you don't have it. But I put down the elements of the packet. Note that the nervous system and neurotransmission will not directly be on the test. There will be a retake opportunity if you weren't happy with your topic 1 quiz score, or if you didn't take that, because that's an issue. Also give you some general studying tips that have been psychologically tested to help with your memory and understanding of information. So anywho, that's that. One thing is make sure you take a look at the unit cover sheet, because that's got the terms, all the terms you need to know. These are the ones related to neurotransmission, but then related to the brain and endocrine system. These are the objectives. These are the 2 big things that you're going to have to know. So I'm going to give you some situations where there's a behavior or a process, and you have to explain parts of the brain involved, and then also some issues that might be related to the endocrine system. And let's see, what else we have? Yeah, these are the terms. So you got to make sure that you know what these are, and that if you saw them in a question, you know what its function is and where it is. That's a key thing, like whereabouts in the brain is it located? Okay, we're talking like, let's see if I can find the good slide of it to show an example. But we're talking, shoot, I don't have, why is that all that we have here? Okay, anyway, I'll get a better example in a second. But let me pull up, it's a good one to use is Brain Atlas or Brain Facts. It's a good one too. Actually, I don't know where it went. This is not something that we need to be sitting around. 3D Brain Atlas. Okay. All right, anyway, while that's going, I'll kind of go through some of these things right here. So let's do the study guide. What I try to do is try to think about like the 4 big things that you'd want to focus on with the brain and think about what they do, and that kind of helps you categorize things. So the first thing is the parts of the cerebral cortex. That's the big folded part of the brain that is not unique to humans, in that humans are the ones that have it, but the development of it is fairly unique. So you've got the frontal lobe, and that's the thing that deals with thinking, executive functions, reasoning, etc. The problem with Alex Morgan. Okay, you got the parietal lobe, which is related to touch, taste, feeling, coordination, things like that. Smell gets involved in there. Motor cortex is involved in that. You've got the temporal lobe, which is related to hearing and language. It's got Broca's area, Wernicke's area, and then you've got the occipital lobe, which that's for vision, primary visual cortex. So that's kind of just the thing that we're looking at. And I went from front to back there for you. Temporal, remember, temporal is over the temples. It's right by your ear. Parietal lobe doesn't really have anything great that I have for it. Somebody said you don't touch your parents, which I guess is a good way to think about it, I guess. And then occipital, like oculus, your vision, seeing things, eyes. All right. Limbic system is where you process mammalian specialty processing emotions and fight or flight responses. So you've got the hippocampus. Say a hippopotamus in college never forgets. It's memory. You've got the hypothalamus, which is under the thalamus. That's going to do your drives. So sleep, wake, hunger, thirst, and sex drives. You've got the thalamus, which is for sensory routing, which I never really think about as part of the limbic system. Technically, it's part of the limbic system, but it doesn't really fit in with a lot of those other things, other than you have to have sense perception to have any emotions and some of those other things. My old friend in high school, Amy G. Dalla, was always so emotional. We got emotional processing, and those are the big ones for the limbic system. So those are the things that are related to fight or flight, emotional processing, memory processing, a lot of things that are going to be routing things back and forth to the cerebral cortex. Autonomic, unconscious. Now we're getting into the lizard brain portion of things. So we're thinking about the pons is going to be the first part of that. It's going to regulate like a little bit of sleep-wake cycle and some autonomic functions like sleeping and breathing and things like that. And then the medulla is going to be related to breathing, heart rate. Okay, breathing, heart rate. I guess autonomic also, to include everything, I'd have the cerebellum in there. So that's going to be related to coordination, motor skills, procedural memory, which is going to be like your ability to stand upright, ride a bike, things like that. So that's not necessarily, it's not part of the brain stem. It's kind of in the back of the brain. It's like that little brain in the back of your brain, but it kind of fits along with the same things, these autonomic or unconscious, non-conscious, I guess is the way you'd say it, functions. Sensory information, three of the four lobes are involved in sensory information. The frontal lobe itself is not directly involved in sensory information, but it is directed in perception. So how you perceive the world, which is a little bit different. The thalamus, routes all sensory information except smell. The amygdala is related to, hippocampus, amygdala are related to smell, but we could use the limbic system, especially for smell. Okay, so that's kind of what we're looking for there. But remember, like I say, the thalamus is the highway of the senses. It gets routed to the different roads it's supposed to go on based on that. Okay, here I kind of try to fill in some things so that you could help you a little bit. Let me get a time check quick. Sorry, 8 minutes. All right, we have 8 minutes left. All right, we're doing great. So, sorry, I don't want to show you that. Anywho, I always have so many tabs open on this thing. All right. So nerve cells is where neurotransmission occurs. Brain, spinal cord, peripheral nervous system, endocrine system happens in your bloodstream, okay, from glands to the bloodstream. That's one of the big differences. Speed. Neurotransmission happens very quickly, okay? It's very fast. The neurons are firing like 200 miles an hour over a teeny tiny like a little tiny gap in your neurons. Speed of transmission here is slower, takes more time. It's got to go through the bloodstream and get to the messengers where it needs to go. Length of time, it's going to be short, fleeting. Okay, you're having thoughts. I mean, you're having thoughts every second of every day, basically. Like you can't have and feelings and other things like that. So it's got to be pretty short, fleeting, so you can move on to other things. Longer lasting. Neurotransmitters pass by neurons, including things like, did I say neurons? Yeah. Neurotransmitters pass by neurons, including acetylcholine. You've got dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin. GABA is kind of a depressant neurotransmitter. Those are the big neuromodulators. They kind of modulate other neurotransmitters, but there's lots of neurotransmitters. Hormones. The hormones we learned about were growth hormone, which is literally going to affect things in your body and how they operate. Talked about tyrosine or thyroid, which regulates metabolism. Okay, we talked about insulin, which is related to blood sugar and breakdown of food. We talked about cortisol, which was in the Alex Morgan project, which is stress hormone. And then we also talked about adrenaline, epinephrine, which is going to be kind of a stress excitatory hormone, similar to norepinephrine in the brain. And then the last one, trying to make sure I remember all of them. Oh, obviously you have your sex hormones, testosterone and estrogen and other sex hormones like that. I think what else did we do? Sorry, doing this off the top of my head. Oh, melatonin. That was your sleep-wake cycle, which comes from your pineal gland, and we will learn about that in the consciousness unit. So that's a chart comparing them. What I would do on a test for a 3.0 is give you a scenario of a behavior, just like we've done in class multiple times, and tell me like what parts of the nervous system could be operating here, what parts of the endocrine system could be operating here, and maybe like what's a difference we might see as a result. Okay, so that's your filled out unit study guide. Here's the brain atlas that I would take a look at. It's going to tell you, I mean, your brain mind map, if you did it correctly and got good score on it, it should be fine. But like this is going to give you tons of information about different parts of the brain, where they are, trying to remember them, things like that. So the pons, then the medulla, you got the cerebellum back there. I like to break it up into sections. You got the limbic system, you've got the lobes, you've got the brainstem and the cerebellum together. So as long as you can remember that, you'll probably be in pretty good shape. All right. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Smash that like button. Keep those likes higher than those dislikes. And until next time, my friends. Peace.